Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and peoples of the world, what is going on? It is Soggy Boy coming at you with another episode of Fantasy Time. I am here with everyone's favorite other co-host, Nick. Nick, what's going on?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Oh, same old. Crying internally from Patriots' defensive woes.
Sad. That was a tough hit. Especially
I'm really upset.
Good.
Out of both of those injuries, I wasn't expecting the Christian Gonzalez one to be worse.
Me neither. When I found out, I immediately thought of you, and I was like, wow, he's been high on him all year, and he was just he kept improving every year or every week. So big hit, and I don't think the J.C. Jackson trade fixes that at all because he's got a lot of issues going on.
He does have a lot of issues, but if there's anyone that can get the best out of a bad situation, especially with a player that you've already coached, it's Bill Belichick.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not looking at this as here we go, everything's fixed. I'm looking at it as okay, all right. So, we have a starting corner now. That's great. And he knows how to play in a Patriot system. So, I mean, great. Awesome. So, it's awesome. I'm excited to see him back. I loved him. They called him Mr. Interception for a reason. He was filthy in our system and then decided he wanted money. He moved out to LA. And that's the thing. You got to live a certain lifestyle, and he just got loose. He did. End of story. So, and then obviously injury bug, which is the big one, took its toll on him, unfortunately. So, but great. Let's talk about some fantasy football to start the day again. We're going to switch things up a little bit. We are going to stick with the segment, but we're going to tailor it more towards the year that has been so far, and that is boom or bust. About our big boys, the booms for the year so far. Nick, why don't you start? Pick a position, give me your boom for that position, and then we'll riff off each other like we always do.
Cool. So this one I'm gonna go running back, and this one I feel like is pretty easy. Whatever doubts the fantasy football community had about this player, they're gone. Christian McCaffrey is by far the best running back in the last fantasy football running back and just regular plain old football running back in the last, 6 years, 7 years. He had a couple seasons with some injuries, and then that led to injury concerns with drafting him in future leagues. But those are all gone. He's been crushing it. He's on a 13-game streak with recording a touchdown. You can't ask for more. He's catching the ball. He's running the ball. He looks strong. He looks healthy. And I think he's probably the biggest boom so far through the first quarter of the season.
I'm just going to piggyback right on top of that because I would agree. I took into account kind of expectations into my boom profiles here. So Christian McCaffrey is in fact my boom. He is the best fantasy player so far through the 4 games. We know what his ceiling is when he is healthy, and it is exactly this. 459 yards on the ground, another 141 yards through the air. He's already got 7 touchdowns through 4 games of the season. And also pairing that with about 20 receptions, 18, obviously not 20. But it's very interesting to see that. Just looking at some of the metrics on the app that we use here is Sleeper. Is rostered in 99.6% of all fantasy rosters. I don't know what that is. That should definitely be 100%. But I don't think that is an actuality of number because the player with the most roster percentage is actually Josh Allen with 99.7.
Okay.
So I don't really get what those percentages are doing for you past the 98th percentile, but it is a statistical bomb of a season for Christian McCaffrey. Again, we're looking at, let's see, 500 in. Actually, I think this might actually be six. He has exactly 600 scrimmage yards, exactly
through 4 weeks.
Through 4 weeks, 7 touchdowns, 18 receptions. Yeah, I mean, no brainer pick for running back here. I think 99.6% of people would agree with me, and that he is this year or this quarter's fantasy boom, or this month's, I guess, if you want to just say the month of September. But yeah, fantasy boom for running back, definitely Christian McCaffrey. So I'll transition on over to let me see who I want to do. Do I want to go quarterback? Do I want to go wide receiver? Let's talk about wide receiver. So, not a guy that we really talk about as in terms of overall fantasy production. There are other names out there that have surpassed this person in the last 4 to 5 years. Obviously, with age, he's getting a little bit up there, but having Justin Herbert as your quarterback certainly helps. I'm talking about Keenan Allen. So far through 4 games, 35 receptions, 434 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's been targeted 44 times. 35 receptions out of 44 targets. It's a pretty good percentage. Can't do math in my head right now. But he's looking at about 104 fantasy points in a standard PPR 10-man. Well, 10-man doesn't really have anything to do with it, but in a standard PPR league, 104 points. Everything's weighed the same as other leagues. That is good for best fantasy wide receiver, only by a little bit, because Justin Jefferson does exist. But didn't expect Keenan Allen to be such a factor this early in the season, especially with Quentin Johnson and obviously Mike Williams now going down. He's only going to see more targets and health. Honestly, I thought that out of the two, of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, I thought Keenan Allen was going to be the guy that went down. And obviously, exact opposite happens. But Keenan Allen, 104 fantasy points through 4 weeks. That is good for a little over 25 points a game.
That's insane. That's insane. He's as consistent as you get when he's a healthy receiver. I seem to miss out on him every year, and it always bites me in the ass because I always feel like he's going to get hurt, and this year he's just proven it wrong so far.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, again, it's all about that injury history with him and kind of seeing what he's been able to do when he has been healthy. Again, he's putting himself in that conversation yet again of, hey, I'm still here. Yeah, Justin Jefferson exists. Yeah, Jamar Chase exists. Yeah, Tyreek Hill exists. I'm still here. Devonta Adams, I'm still here. You know what I mean? As far as actual talent goes, he is not a top 5 wide receiver. But in terms of production and fantasy value right now, he's wide receiver number 1. So if you have Keenan Allen on your bench, or which you shouldn't, you should never have Keenan Allen on your bench. That's a dumb thing to even think about.
If you do, you should be playing fantasy football.
You should not be playing fantasy football. But if you have Keenan Allen, he is a must start every week. So for the foreseeable future, as long as Justin Herbert's healthy, doesn't matter if the Chargers lose games, they're still scoring like 30 points a game, and Keenan Allen is a focal point in that offense. So
absolutely.
Is he your boom, or do you have a different boom for wide receiver?
I agree that he's a boom pick, but I'm gonna again take the easy route and go Justin Jefferson. Through the first 3 weeks, he averaged 150 yards through the first 3 weeks. Excuse me. I think in each of those first three games, he had 10 catches minimum. Touchdowns, it really didn't get to him until the last 2 weeks, where he hasn't had the 150 receiving yard mark. But like I said, in terms of fantasy football, touchdowns make up for that. So JJ would be my boom alongside Keenan Allen.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Again, like I said, the number 2 fantasy wide receiver in statistically got like 103.3 fantasy points compared to Keenan Allen's 104. So semantics at that point. Obviously we did expect to see Justin Jefferson atop the league in normal stats and fantasy stats at this point in the season, and most likely at the end of the season as well. So in a season 1 second, I'm going to try to mute myself.
Bless you.
Oh, that would have destroyed people's eardrums if I didn't get there. Fantastic. Well, Justin Jefferson. So now, sir, it is back to you. You got tight end and you got quarterback. So hit me with it.
All right. I'm going to go quarterback. And
All right.
this, I'm going to assume it's going to surprise people because I have him in a couple leagues. And this is a quarterback that was a big risk. If you took a shot on him, you're happy. He's got 900 passing yards, 8 throwing touchdowns, I think 2 rushing touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Jordan Love so far through the first 4 weeks has looked good. In terms of fantasy football, yes, he's making mistakes.
In terms of regular football, I'm not even gonna. Let's not go there. In terms of regular football,
right, too. You got me. But he is the quarterback 4 on the season. He's averaging 21.3 points, and through the first 4 weeks, I'm shocked that he's only rostered about 67% of leagues. If you punted the quarterback position and loaded up your roster on, in every other category and then took a chance, you're happy. Through the first 4 weeks, his points go 23, 20, 24, and 17. So what week 4 showed me was when he can't do it through the air, he's going to get you points with his legs because he looks quick. And I didn't realize he was that fast. Mm-hmm. But you within the red zone, within 25 yards, he's able to run that in for a touchdown. So for me, Jordan Love is my boom quarterback through the first 4 weeks of this season.
I mean, that's an excellent choice. I would also argue that just it looks so uncanny the way that he plays football as compared to Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And just they're able to finesse the quarterback position every time that they are drafting as from a position of need. I mean, again, they knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to be gone at some point. You view that as a need because look at what happened with the Patriots. They didn't view it as a need until it was too late, and now they're stuck with McCorkle motherfucking Jones, who is not terrible, but he also lost you a game last week. So
totally irrelevant to fantasy football, but I read a report. Again, don't know if it's 100% true, but Caleb Williams obviously is the talk of the town going into the draft next year. And he said that he could make more money going back to USC rather than being a starting quarterback in his first year in the NFL. He's listed a few teams that he would like to play for, and the Patriots and the Giants were 2 of those 6 teams. The other ones I don't remember, but
both of our teams are in position to have a pick close enough to the first overall pick.
If I had a pick between my team or your team, I think he has a better chance of landing with the Patriots because the New York Giants have to tough out Daniel Jones for 1 more year, just because of money. We can't let him go, or else it's going to hit us.
Yeah,
in the ass.
The Patriots can decline max rookie option. So, yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up for Caleb Williams. If by some miracle of whoever the fuck exists, that the Patriots end up with Caleb Williams, that to me would be like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, that is Patrick Mahomes 2.0.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is Patrick Mahomes 2.0.
Wow.
I mean, there's no doubt. And the best part is like, now that we know what a Patrick Mahomes, is, what he can do, people are looking for it. And Caleb Williams is it.
I agree. Wholeheartedly agree.
He is him. So, but let's go to my quarterback boom so far this season. It's going to be a guy, people always downplay his success at the quarterback position. He's on a team that has a terrible defense, but again, he can fucking sling the ball. He's got 11 touchdowns through the air. He has thrown 4 picks, whatever, 11-4, still a good ratio. Better than the first place quarterback so far. And he has thrown for the most yards this season with 1,214. Take a guess. Who am I talking about?
It's either CJ Stroud. No, not CJ Stroud because he hasn't had any.
Stroud, but you're close.
Is it Kirk?
It is Kirk Cousins, and he has the lead by 2 yards. CJ Stroud has 1,212 yards.
Yep.
Kirk has 1,214. So Kirk Cousins, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,000, about $112, $114 for yards there. He's been great. His completion percentage is just shy of 70%. Not that his rushing stats have anything to do with it, but he has run 5 times. Ooh, yay. I mean, to be completely fair, if you have a positive rushing yard total, you're doing something right, especially if you're a quarterback that stays in the pocket most of the time, like Kirk Cousins does. So I'm just putting that out there. That has nothing to do with why he is my boom. He is just that offense with a lack of running game has been passing. That is it. That is all that they are able to do. They don't have a good running system anymore. Dalvin Cook gone. Alexander Madison looks like a dog shit. They brought in Cam Akers. Obviously, he's going to factor in at some point. We have no idea how much. So for right now, if you have Kirk Cousins on your team, he is your starting quarterback. You need to start him every week. He is quarterback number 3 in fantasy right now. Right above Jordan Love, who is quarterback number 4 in standard leagues. Another person I want to point out that I think just about everyone is going to be like, what? Guess who the quarterback number 6 is so far in fantasy?
Shoot.
I'll give you a wild guess. I'll just give you a random guess.
Okay.
Currently, well, this is, I guess, not a guess. This is just a stat drop. He's better than Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, and if I can find Joe Burrow for sure. Joe Burrow's like way down there, but
Or Joe.
Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is quarterback number 6 in standard PPR leagues. He's got 97.6 fantasy points through 4 games. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards so far. He has 9 touchdowns and only 2 picks.
Okay. It's better than last year.
I mean, as much as the Broncos suck absolute donkey dick this year, even more so than last year with Sean Payton, something's going right for Russell Wilson this season because he looks good. He does look good. I mean, the stats don't lie.
Nope.
And he's hovering right around 67% on that completion percentage, which is a marquee of a great to elite quarterback season. So just putting that out there. He's having himself a nice little season so far. A lot of people obviously giving him shit. He was terrible last year. He's already almost at his season total from last year in terms of touchdowns. He had 14? He was 14-12 last season. He's already has 9 through 14. So, he's doing some things out there that not a lot of people are giving him credit for. Just by looking at some stats, looking at his key stats, you gotta give him some props here. And obviously, Sean Payton has fostered a great quarterback play before. So, do you give Sean Payton credit at this point? Do you give anyone credit, or is it this just, hey, Russ is doing his thing again? I don't know.
I think it's there's multiple factors. It's Sean Payton coming in. I think it's Russell Wilson because he's the type of quarterback that has succeeded in this league, has won a Super Bowl, has put up stats, and it's just not up to his standard what he did last year. I didn't personally believe that he was going to be better because that team looks awful. The defense is terrible. Offensive line is bad. There's no running game. The receivers don't look all that great to me. But yeah, there's just a lot of things going into it.
The receivers don't look bad. It's just shocking to me because there's just been such a mismanagement of how they're using them. But he's still got 1,000 yards. He's still throwing for 9 touchdowns. He's only got 2 picks. I mean, on the surface, it looks terrible. But if you take a little bit of a deeper dive, look at his stats specifically, he's having a good season so far. He really is. He's got a better touchdown to interception ratio than most of the quarterbacks above him. Sitting right around like 4.5. Only person he's not better than, I believe, is Justin Herbert, who's thrown only 1 pick so far to 7 touchdowns. So he's got more touchdowns than most of the elite quarterbacks so far. And he looks better than Patrick Mahomes so far. Patrick Mahomes doesn't even look that good.
They need to get him a receiver.
Yeah, well, that's definitely for sure. All right, well, we got tight end left, right?
We do.
So I will go give my tight end. Gotta go rookie here. I pumped him up week 1 after that Lions-Chiefs game. It's gonna be my guy Sam Laporta. He is leading the league in tight end yards with 242. He's got 22 receptions. He doesn't only have that 1 touchdown. He's rounded off about 52.2 fantasy points in a standard PPR league. Sitting only behind TJ Hawkinson for that number 1 spot. Obviously, we've seen Travis Kelce, he was injured for 1 week, so he's not going to be up there in terms of fantasy. But, number 2 tight end over guys like Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Dallas Goedert. I can keep naming guys. Obviously, he's going to be better than them except for TJ Hawkinson. So Sam Laporta, definitely, especially with expectations, the Lions did say they were going to use him in some funky situations. And, he really has been turning into the go-to guy for Jared Goff. So very surprising, very good surprise, especially if you're a Lions fan. You're seeing an offensive metamorphoses from some of their key players. David Montgomery's come out of nowhere and started running like 1,000-yard back again. They still have Jahmyr Gibbs, who they're underutilizing, who at any point should break out. Like, it is asinine the way that they are not utilizing Jahmyr Gibbs. And I cannot stress this enough. The burst that this man has is ridiculous. They just need to get him the ball in open space. It just has to happen.
Why David Montgomery is getting 32 carries?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it just
doesn't make sense.
Let the ball out. Whatever, who cares? But like, literally, David Montgomery's getting 32 carries, fucking 3 touchdowns. Like, what? Why? Give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit, please. Please, my fantasy team needs it. Please. Listen to some random football bullshit stranger. I need it. Oh, fucking goddamn Dan Campbell. I respect the hell out of him though. I can't even be mad at him.
You can't. It's working. The 3-1, the offense is clicking.
I know, they look so good.
You could see the frustration in Jahmyr Gibbs. You really can.
Because he knows once he gets he
knows he's gonna.
It's all it's gonna take is one play for him. All it is going to take is one play, and that is it. Then he's gonna take over. So Sam Laporta, that's my tight end. after my weekly Jahmyr Gibbs rant.
So with tight end, I feel like there's not really a top 10 you can choose from. I think there's a top 5 that you can legitimately start. Yeah. I know tight end is a little strange. Side note, if you have Kyle Pitts, drop him like a sack of potatoes 2 weeks ago.
It's not even his fault. They are just not using him.
I know.
It's so frustrating.
I know.
We'll get into Kyle Pitts a little bit.
We'll get into it. I had to mention it. But my boom so far for the tight end position through the first 4 weeks, you mentioned it. It's TJ Hawkinson. There's, I think, 2 points that differs TJ Hawkinson and Sam Laporta.
He's got like 54 points. I think it's like 54 point something.
TJ Hawkinson's got 55.3. He's got 25 catches out of 31 targets, 203 yards, and 2 touchdowns. When you're in an offense that, as you said earlier, is continuously throwing the ball and doesn't have a run game, people are going to eat. Players are going to eat. So
Yeah.
far, it's Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, and even Jordan Addison. He eats when it's his time. In terms of the tight end position, there's 5, right? I mentioned it's Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, T.J. Hawk, Sam Laporta, and
Yep.
now Sam Laporta and who am I missing?
I mean,
Jacksonville.
Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram's in the top 5. You can't go wrong with any of the guys I just mentioned, but TJ Hawkinson is my boom through the first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
The tight end position.
I agree. I mean, I'm with you for sure, especially he was filthy in Detroit. He was every quarterback safety blanket. Moves to Minnesota. He has that red zone threat, red zone potential. TJ Hawkinson.
He's got it all. He's a deep guy. He's a red zone guy. He's a reception guy. He's got it all.
He does. All right, well, let's go into our bust then for this this fantasy season so far. Let's just full snake it around. Let's start with tight end here. I'll give it to you. You go for it. I'm assuming we're gonna have the same person, obviously with the Kyle Pitts rant going on. Would I be incorrect on that?
You're not. I have a different player in mind.
Okay.
But we can talk about Kyle Pitts for a little bit.
All right. I mean, he's my bust. I assumed that Kyle Pitts was going to finally start seeing more targets now that they looked like they were going to be a team that was on the up and up, and they've won some good games, they've lost some bad games. Mm-hmm. They haven't gotten him involved. They really haven't gotten him involved. I wrote some stuff down here for him. He's only seen 21 targets through 4 games, and he's only caught 11 of those. So really, really seeing, not a lot going on in that department. And I guess you could really say, he's had a lot of drops. I mean, that might be what's plaguing him so far, where we see guys like Sam Laporta, 22 receptions on 27 targets. He's up there because he is hauling in those deep balls. He's hauling in things over the middle. He's just making it work where Kyle Pitts is not. So
either get him out of Atlanta or go get a quarterback.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder is not the answer. That's for sure.
They knew that going into the season. I think they're just trying to see what he can do.
See if they can ride it out into maybe like a decent, whatever. All right, so who's your bust then, sir? Mine is Kyle Pitts.
For me, and this has nothing to do with being a fan of this team. Darren Waller is my bust going through the first 4 weeks. There was a lot of hype. A lot of hype,
yes.
With getting Daniel Jones a weapon. He looked good. There was a lot of media coverage, during training camp, and even in preseason. The first preseason game against the Panthers, on the first drive, Darren Waller had 5 targets, and he caught all 5 balls. Granted, it was for like 20, 30 yards, but still, the volume for me, and I think for a lot of other fantasy football fans and New York Giant fans, the hype was there, and in typical New York Giant fashion, we take a step forward and take another 10 back. It's miserable being a Giants fan right now.
I'm sorry. I know it's not great.
Daniel Jones, that offensive line is horrendous.
It's really bad.
And I guess the bright side going into this week is we signed Justin Pugh, the guy that we drafted and now is 33 years old. He's not going to make a difference. And if he does make that big of a difference, shame on me for not having faith in my team. Darren Waller.
I can hear the pain after every word, the sighs, just the ambivalence. It's wonderful. I'm sorry.
It's insane. Right now he's ranked 12th in the tight end category. He's averaging 7 points a week, rostered in 96% of leagues. He's got 15 receptions off 23 targets, 153 yards, and no touchdowns. It's not going to get better. It's not. We can't get into the end zone. We're not hitting on deep plays because Daniel Jones doesn't have time to throw the ball. And little side note, Daniel Jones is not the problem. I, however, am done with the Daniel Jones experiment. It's been 5 years. And yes, he has had stints of looking better. He's not going to get better. He needs to either tell the team to take the money you gave me and put it into the team or leave. It's just painful. I can't watch a game. I can't.
They gave him that guaranteed money. I mean, seriously,
like
wild.
It's. They could have declined the 50-year option, not pay him $140 million and have a $48 million cap hit after each year. I think on the third year it'd be like a $62 million cap hit. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense
for a guy that literally no one in the fan base trusts. It's just wild. All right, well, is that also your quarterback bust so far?
Yeah.
He was your boom prediction for the year. I just want to point that out.
I know. There was expectation coming off last year. You can't fault me for saying that. He had a good season.
I never said I faulted you. I'm just
no. I'm not saying you. I'm saying
okay. Yeah.
I'm
not faulting you for anything. You're entitled to your own opinion, no matter how shitty it is.
It's rough.
More specifically, just Daniel Jones. But
my brother and I had a conversation. Even when Eli Manning had a 30, leave it up there. I just got an ice cream delivery.
Nice.
Even when Eli Manning threw 30 interceptions in a season, it seemed to still be more entertaining than what I've had the last 5 years.
I mean, I think the most entertaining play I've ever seen from Daniel Jones is that 85-yard run that ended with him tripping on himself.
If that doesn't sum it up.
I mean, seriously, that's the only an entertaining play that I can remember from him. Obviously, that might just be some bias because, you usually remember the bad over the good, but
yeah.
He looked fine, and all of a sudden he just everything, my body's going to give up now, and just rolled over. So,
yeah.
All right, well, who is your quarterback bust then?
My quarterback bust. You actually mentioned his name earlier. It doesn't make sense, but with the numbers, Patrick Mahomes is considered a bust going through the first 4 weeks. Might be a hot take.
Not really a hot take. I mean, you just fully expected him to be in that conversation as far as fantasy production. He's usually number one every year. Every year he's sitting, I think it's 8 or 9, or no, 7 or 8. I forget. He's not in the top 5. He hasn't been playing that well. Again, this is Patrick Mahomes we're talking about. So we expect every game for him to throw for over 300 yards and have at least 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
This was and we'll talk about this later on Garbage Time. This was the first game where the opposing quarterback completely outperformed Patrick Mahomes.
And it was fucking Zach Wilson.
Zach motherfucking Wilson. Seriously, you couldn't have written that any better. Seriously, what's good with the script writers this year? What is this bullshit? What is this nonsense? Literally, you know what? Fuck this. We're just gonna we need to come up with a bingo card for bullshit nonsense that happens in the NFL this year. Taylor Swift taking over NFL marketing and Patrick Mahomes being completely outperformed by Zach Wilson were not on my bingo card this year. I don't know what's going on. Seriously, what else? What else could possibly happen?
Don't
Taylor Jones thinking that someone's trying to inject him with magic serum. What is happening? What is going on?
But yeah, Patrick Mahomes is eighth in quarterback rankings. Obviously he's rostered at 99.9% of leagues. That doesn't matter. But he's averaging 19.9 points a game. He's thrown for 1,006 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And a lot of people, including myself, expected Patrick Mahomes to throw 4 interceptions for the year. And he's got 4 through the first 4 weeks.
True.
That's 1 a week. It's just not what you expected. Like you said, everybody pictures him as the number one. Let me put it this way. He is the Christian McCaffrey of the quarterback position. You expect him to do this every year, in and out. And it just hasn't been it. In a lot of leagues, people have either drafted him towards the end of the first, which is asinine, but it happened. Latest.
Well, I mean, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, then yeah, that makes sense.
For a 2-quarterback league, he's going in the top 5. In a 1-quarterback league, he went in the back end of the first or somewhere in the second, and that's it. For a player that you've picked in the first 2 rounds, you expect them to put up week in and week out, especially when your name is Patrick Mahomes, especially when you have 2 Super Bowls, an MVP, and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. It's just
not only that, and in terms of fantasy production, he hasn't played difficult teams. I mean, again, we'll give him a grain of salt. The Lions came out. We didn't know what they were going to be because they had a revamped offense, whatever. Besides the point, he didn't perform that well against the Lions, had a chance to win it, and he didn't.
Yep.
Then, you play the Jaguars. You do beat the Jaguars, but they only scored 13 points. He had 26 fantasy points. But again, the only time he overperformed his projection was against the Bears. And it wasn't, 31 points fantasy-wise for a quarterback is really good. We're not saying that he's been bad. But the fact that, he's underperforming his projections, especially so much so, he only scored 16 points last week against the Jets. We do know the Jets have a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. The Jets should have won that game. I am 110% on board that the league rigged that game. I don't care what anyone says. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm sorry. There were so many egregious missed calls in that game that it is just too much of a coincidence that Taylor Swift was there and the Chiefs just happened to win that game, and Patrick Mahomes ran it on 3rd and 23 and got it, even though there was a ridiculously blatant hold call that they missed. I'm super pissed about that. I also hate the fucking Chiefs, if you can't tell. Which is funny because I'm a Patriots fan. The Patriots have always gotten the better of the Chiefs. So I really don't that's the thing. I don't hate them because of their success. My team's had more success than them. I don't like them as a franchise. I don't like the party boy, Travis Kelce nonsense. He's just such a douchebag. And again, yes, I know we had Gronk. I get it, but it's different.
Gronk was a harmless.
Gronk was a lovable, bonehead.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce is he is the frat leader. He is the frat house bro. I can't stand it.
Hey.
Anyways, getting off topic here again. My fantasy bust for the quarterback position is a guy that I also mentioned earlier. Sitting way down the list. Did he miss a game? I'm trying to think here. Joe Burrow, did he miss a game this season so far?
Should have. I don't think
know
he
if he did or not.
But he should.
The yards are there, sort of. He's got 728 passing yards, but he's got 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. And his completion percentage is 58.
Ugh.
So those are really bad numbers for a guy that should be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Obviously, yes, he has been injured. He's got a calf injury, but that offensive line looks way worse than it did in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Way worse than it did last year. It has been so bad that they just booted La'el Collins out of the system. We don't want you anymore. Gone.
That threw me for a curveball. Little side note. It's why would you just get rid of
a guy that you signed this offseason?
Yeah.
That's how bad it is going. You just signed the guy. You thought he was going to be able to help, and you got rid of him for some other no-name. That's not good. if you're a Bengals fan, you are extremely worried, especially with the 1-3 start. And you play the Cardinals this week. For some reason, the Cardinals are just out here upsetting good teams and like playing like shit against other teams. I don't know. It's every other week for them, I guess. I don't know. All right, let's go to my let's do running back and then we'll go to wide receiver. My running back bust is I'll temper expectations here on the word bust. It's gonna be Dalvin Cook. I fully expected Dalvin Cook to play very well within the first 8 weeks, and Breece Hall to take a step back, recover. So that's kind of my expectational bust. Dalvin Cook has looked nowhere near as good. Breece Hall has been their workhorse. He has been their one. And Dalvin Cook is sitting. Let's see. I wrote it down here. No, I didn't. JK. I like I said, I fully expected Dalvin Cook to at least split the workload with Breece and be more of a factor, but he just hasn't really been a factor at all. Right now, if I can look this up really quickly while I gather my thoughts. Breece Hall is currently sitting at the number 37 spot. And Dalvin Cook is sitting at the number 54 spot. So that should tell you everything that you need to know. Either running back has really done well, honestly, in fantasy so far. Breece Hall only has 28 points. Dalvin Cook only has like 17, maybe 17.8 points. So neither of them have had a good first 4 games. Obviously, it's going to be really hard now that Zach Wilson is your quarterback. Whatever. But I really assumed that Dalvin Cook would be able to pick up that production he had in Minnesota and at least rush for like an 800 or 900 yards. It's definitely not happening. Dude's got 74 through 4 games.
Going with Aaron Rodgers going down and Zach Wilson being the starting quarterback, you would think that the Jets would say, hey, we don't have faith in behind closed doors. We don't have faith in our starting quarterback. Let's run the ball more since we have 2 great running backs. James Cook was coming off a 1,000-yard season. Granted, he was injured last year and he still rushed for 1,000 yards. Breece Hall looked great through the first 3 or 4 weeks last year before getting hurt. He's fully healthy. Why aren't they using their running backs? I don't understand.
Their running game is MIA. I mean, not Miami. It is missing, like completely gone. It's not even part of the game plan at all. So
I just don't understand. The Jets are always going to jet, I guess.
The Jets always do be jetting, really. All right, who is your running back bust so far?
So far, my running back bust is Josh Jacobs. He was the guy last year. I think he finished the season with 340 total points. Yes, I know that he started off slow last year, but he is the only starting running back I know that can rush for -2 yards in a game. Negative yards.
That's so bad.
It's ridiculous. He's currently sitting at the running back 14 on the season. The only positive that I see is that he's averaging 14.5 fantasy points, and that's only because he had a 30-point game, about a 30-point game last week, and that was off of catches, not running. He was targeted 11 times, caught 8 of them for 81 yards, and in a PPR league, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, he's tied for second most receptions for running back behind Bijan Robinson.
Yep. It's just not looking good. My hope is that he picks it up like he did last year, but I don't know. That's my analytical insight right there. I don't know. Because honestly, Jimmy G doesn't look half bad. Is he the future? No. But he doesn't look half bad. Even Devontae Adams is getting his. Is he the receiver that he was last year? No. He doesn't have guys slinging the ball to him as much as, Derek Carr did last year. just I'm not sure. That Josh Jacobs just looks scary to me. If I'm starting him in my league, you're worried.
Yeah, no kidding.
Try to ship him out, wait for a boom week like this past weekend, and try to sell high, because I don't think it's going to get any better than what it is now.
It doesn't seem like it, especially with a -2 rushing performance.
-2
yards. That's terrible.
He was up to like -10, I think, and he rushed for some yardage.
That's so bad. All right, we're down to wide receiver, and then we can go to some players that we think are going to rebound from some bad performances so far.
Okay. Let's see. My bust for the year so far. I'm gonna go Calvin Ridley. There was obviously
not a bad one.
A lot of hype. He looked good in everything before the season started, and then he even started the season with a 24-point game, 8 catches out of 11 targets, 101 yards and a touchdown. He looked fantastic. I don't necessarily think it's him. I don't think it's Trevor Lawrence either. Something just isn't working. His targets have steadily declined since week 1. Week 1, 11, week 2, 8, week 3, 7, and then he only had 2 last week in London. Christian Kirk looks like the favorite right now, and it's been like that for a couple weeks. I'm hoping that
it's like
Ridley,
the last year too. I mean,
it's just because the way my mind was going before the season started was after the season that Christian Kirk just had, he's not just going to go away. Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence created a bond. It showed last season. I think last season Christian Kirk finished with 240 fantasy points. It's just we hope that Calvin Ridley. We hope that he performs. I know, and I think everybody else who watches football knows that he can perform on a high level. He just looks the part. It just hasn't been that way. Going forward for the next 3 weeks, he's got Buffalo, Indianapolis, and New Orleans. It's not an easy schedule, but
Buffalo might not be bad now that Tre'Davious White is out for the season. But I mean, they have to face that front seven, so I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to do that.
Exactly. It's just right now. It's just not looking good for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he started off the year really hot and then just sputtered the next 3 weeks. My wide receiver bust so far. This is tough, obviously. Tempering expectations for a guy like Garrett Wilson. Really not his fault. I can't blame him for not being for not doing so well. Really has nothing to do with him and obviously with the quarterback situation. But give me Chris Olave. Chris Olave currently sitting at wide receiver number 28 behind guys like Tank Dell, guys like Tutu Atwell, Marquise Brown, Romeo Dobbs. And there's some other big names that are in that area who that they're ranking under, but I really expected Chris Olave to take a bigger step forward, getting Derek Carr as their quarterback, getting a bona fide 4,000 yard passer. I mean, they haven't had one of those in a while. And no, I don't want to hear about Jameis Winston. I don't care. He throws touchdowns, not yards. Get your fucking shit right. So I'm surprised to see him right around. He's in the Gabe Davis area, which is not what you would expect from a guy last year who probably should have won Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, if Garrett Wilson didn't exist. But Garrett Wilson, obviously, he's in the same area right now. The thing for me is the touchdowns. He hasn't caught a touchdown so far through 4 games. The Saints offense has just not looked great. He has been the favorite target. They just haven't done a lot with that offense, and Chris Olave, unfortunately, is seeing that after effect. So Great. Well, any players that you want to talk about that haven't done so well so far that we think are gonna, make a rebound or a bounce back here?
Let me go through my list. My hope, is I'm going to talk about Amari Cooper for a little bit.
I agree with you. I was gonna say Amari Cooper.
He when Deshaun Watson targeted him, and granted his one big game of the season came off of a, I think, 40 or 50-yard touchdown bomb. He was wide open inside the 5-yard line. Because you and I both know that Amari Cooper can put up 1,208 easy. Yes, he's older. Age doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just that team, they're winning games, but they're being carried by that defense. Deshaun Watson looks better than last year. Obviously, he didn't have a lot of time, but when Deshaun Watson is in, his number one guy is Amari Cooper. It just hasn't clicked on a consistent basis. Let me pull up his stats real quick. Let's see. So right now he's the wide receiver 31. He's averaging 10.5 a game. Starting at week 1, 5 points. Week 2, 12. Week 3 against Tennessee was 22, and then he finished last week with 2. So a borderline goose. Targets range all over the place. Week 1, 7. Week 2, 10. Week 3, 8. And week 4, he had 6. They need to get him involved. They're not going to win games with running the ball now. Nick Chubb's not there. That team it took a huge hit with Nick Chubb being out for the rest of the season. They need to funnel that offense through Amari Cooper. And Deshaun Watson knows it. But yeah, that's my hope. He's a bust so far going through the first 4 weeks, and I hope that he can turn it up, because he's that kind of player that will and could win you a fantasy championship going towards the end of the year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, his production comes off of touchdowns, for sure. So, yeah, I think a player that I've seen personally play, not personally, sorry, I've watched play so far this season that should be getting more looks in my offense, my Patriots offense, Demario Douglas. I understand that he had he fumbled the ball away, but I mean, you basically took a game away from the kid. He is shifty. He's got good hands. He's fast. I think you gotta target one person in that offense. You try to spread the ball too much, and it's not working. Juju Smith is a bum. Kendrick Bourne looks good, and I'll give him that. But Devontae Parker, whatever.
He was good like 6 years ago when he was on Minnesota.
He was fantastic 6 years ago. I don't know. Just give the kid a chance, man. Seriously, even for not even for just for fantasy production, just like in general. I mean, he's gonna be a really good wide receiver. You got to give him a chance. And I don't think Bill Belichick realizes that. Give them a chance. What are you waiting for? It's not like you're gonna have a good season already. You're already 1-3. Your schedule only gets harder from here. Just give him a chance. If you lose, you lose. Fantastic. It's not like you have a job within the next 3 years. Like, you're going to retire at some point.
I agree.
Another player that I do fully expect will start to bounce back a little bit. And I'll go to the running back situation here. It's going to be Aaron Jones. I fully expect Aaron Jones to start having a better season than he currently has. Only at 29 fantasy points so far. He's got the kind of split numbers that you're looking for from him. Only 59 yards on the ground. He's got 82 yards to the air, 3 receptions. He's got a touchdown in both aspects there, a rushing and a receiving touchdown. So, kind of those split numbers you're looking for out of Aaron Jones. I fully expect him to have a bounce back, especially when he's fully healthy. And that Green Bay Packers offense has looked really good through the first 4 weeks. Obviously, last week against the Lions, divisional game, I knew that the Lions were going to beat them. They just were not prepared for that game. And I think Aaron Jones should be coming back on that. And And then I'll go one more. I'll do a quarterback here. Let me see if I can find my guy here. You know, do I think Joe Burrow is probably going to start playing better? Yeah, but give me Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't played great so far. The Jags haven't looked that good. This happened to them last year. They didn't start off very hot. They found their rhythm midway through the season and really, made their way. They almost beat the Chiefs. I mean, they're only 4 points off against the Chiefs. I don't know what else to say about the Texans, but again, divisional matchups are always hard to predict. He's got 943 yards. He's thrown for 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. His completion percentage is hovering right around 67%, so not terrible. That completion percentage is good. He's seeing 2 out of every 3 balls thrown through the air are being completed, which is great. He's got 100 yards on the ground, which is good too. So, he's moving with his legs. I fully expect Trevor Lawrence to ramp up production here and be in that top 10 conversation in fantasy by the end of the year. So,
okay. Yeah, totally in total agreement there. Expect, especially when he was expected to take that big jump. That offense is young. They got a lot of weapons. Offensive line doesn't look terrible. It's just something's not clicking right now, and I personally don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll figure it out. They added, obviously, a huge asset in Calvin Ridley, and it just hasn't been panning out the last couple of weeks. They're having some defensive troubles. They're having some offensive line issues. I mean, you can name it. I'm sure every team's going through it right now, but we'll see. If I can say, I think that the Jaguars can figure it out. They don't look like the best team in the AFC South yet. I think that honor goes to the Texans, which I think everyone already wrote off, and myself included. CJ Stroud looks like he is the answer through 4 weeks. But great. So that's our fantasy segment. We're already an hour in. So let me go over some betting odds real quick with you guys before we sign off here. We won't even play the videos. We're going locked and loaded. We're going better beware. We're going upsetty spaghetti. We're going all 3. We're doing all 3 of them. I'll just give you some of my quick locks, some of my games to stay away from, and then maybe some, if we have a little time, I can talk about some upsets, but I can also just talk about those on garbage time. So let's see. So my locks this week, I really, really like the Packers against the Raiders. It's basically a pick 'em. Packers are -1 on the road. They didn't play well against the Lions last week. Again, divisional game. They looked pretty good against the Falcons, and obviously ended up losing that game. And then they beat the Bears steadily week 1. And then who else did they play? Who else did they beat? I'm trying to think.
I'm drawing a blank too now.
I know they beat someone else, but I forget what team that they had ended up playing. The Raiders are definitely a good team for a get-right game. I fully expect the Packers to cover a 1-point spread. All they have to do is win. That's it. I mean, that is literally it. That is the tweet. They have to win the game, and I think that they're going to, so they cover that spread. I also really like the Bills -5.5 over the Jaguars. I know I mentioned this last week. I picked the Falcons. In the back of my mind, I'm like, and I said this out loud too. The Jaguars always play well in London. I don't know what it is. They always do. They're like London's unofficial official team. And they always end up playing well in London. I don't think that's going to carry over this week, unfortunately. The Bills looked really, really fucking good last week against the Dolphins. They steamrolled them. And, well, everything all right?
Yeah, Katarina walked in and she had some, Halloween ice cream and her mouth is all black.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, so I fully expect the Bills to take care of business in London, especially where I don't know if this is going to factor into it, but if the Jags had to travel back to the States and then back to London, I mean, jet lag obviously is a thing, and they could have stayed there. I don't know. I'm not really taking that much of that into account, but things like that do matter, especially in terms of preparation for the Buffalo Bills, who look like maybe the second best team in the league so far. right behind the 49ers. And then I have two more locks. Texans +2 against the Falcons. Falcons struggled last week against the Jaguars. The Texans have looked good the last 2 weeks. I think CJ Stroud is going to take a little bit of a step back this week against a pretty good Falcons secondary. But I don't think that it's going to be so much a step back that they're not going to win that game. They're also sitting at +2. So even if they lose by 2 or 1 points, which obviously makes sense, they still win that bet. So give me +2 against the Falcons. I also really like the Lions and Panthers games. The Panthers have surprisingly held teams to under 20 points consistently this season, like hovering around 20 points. The Lions have only scored more than 25 points in one game. I can see this being a low-scoring one. I like that 45.5 because, I don't think the Panthers are scoring over 20 points. I don't think they're scoring over 17, and I don't think the Lions are going to end up scoring at least 30. So I can definitely see 45.5 being a good line, and I would lock in the under for that. Games to stay away from: Patriots, Saints. Don't touch it. Just don't do it. It's not worth your time. It's a pick 'em. Again, you don't know what team you're getting with the Patriots. Now that Matthew Judon's out, they have J.C. Jackson back. Christian Gonzalez is out. You don't know what team you're getting with the Saints. They've been up and down all season. Is Derek Carr going to look good? Is he going to look bad? We don't know. He's been on and off all season so far. They do have Alvin Kamara back. What is that going to mean? Is this a get right game for Chris Olave? Is he going to do well? Obviously, you can say that about any game, but this game in particular, there's just too many variables for me to muddle through, especially where it's my team. I try and stay away from my own team unless I'm certain, and I have not been certain about them in a long time, which in a long time means like 5 years, which is nothing for.
You know what you can be certain of?
What?
The Dolphins spanking the Giants' ass this weekend.
Yeah, -11 seems a little small. And then Bengals Cardinals. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Cardinals then somehow beat the Cardinals
fucking Cowboys.
They didn't play too bad against the 49ers. They were in that game up until right around like end of half. And then the Niners just had their way with them. But that's the 49ers. They're the most complete team in football. I fully expect the Cardinals to give the Bengals fits. I don't know how they're going to stop James Conner. And you don't need much to get through that Bengals offensive line. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. They're 1-3 for a reason because they can't stop a beach ball. It's terrible. So, all right. Well, let me give you my quick upsets here. So Texans over the Falcons, Cardinals over the Bengals, and then I guess really not an upset, but Jets over the Bengals. I don't know why Jets over the Broncos. I don't know. Like, I guess the Broncos are at home, so fine. But the Jets defense is really good. The Jets defense has done enough to win every single game so far this season. It's their offense that has limited them. And if Zach Wilson plays even as half as good as he played the other night, they're going to win this game. So that's it for me.
You hope.
Well, I'm not really hoping. I'm just saying, like, even if he plays shit, terrible, poor, they still beat the Bills in week 1, and he played awful. It was the defense and special teams that won them that game. Every week they have a chance to do that because that defense is special. So I really think, especially with the Broncos team, yes, Russell Wilson has played good. We've been over that, but their defense is literally a sack of potatoes. This is the game where you run Breece Hall and you run Dalvin Cook into the ground. If they don't do that, then Robert Saleh needs to be fired as head coach. I'm sorry, he needs to be fired. Or get a different offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do need to switch over to our regularly scheduled garbage time episode. So that is going to be it for us from Fantasy Time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You know where to find us: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Pretty much anywhere you can enjoy social media, we're going to be there. Probably somewhere way back in there. We're there, though. Thank you so much. We will hopefully see you next week. I don't know because I will be in South Carolina. I'm hoping we can do like a special.
Okay.
But so stay tuned for that. We can do a little special episode. But stay soggy.
Go Big Blue, everybody.